Today I am looking at these extension towers. Are we calling them that? Will that do? And I'm wondering why you haven't made the change from these. Why are you still using these? Why? I know some of them will get USB sockets now, but why? For a start, all of these are probably double-sided. All the ones I've got are. So that's 5 sockets times 2, 10 sockets. Not double-sided. This one's got 8. But if I did want to use it the old-fashioned way, most of them, this comes off. Cut! Yeah, it comes off. So you could, if you wanted, do that. Probably I would more likely do that. But I'm not going to because I'm happy as it is. I'm pretty sure this is the one from Tesco. £20, spring 23. And yeah, I've made the switch from the old-fashioned type. Why don't you? It says do not exceed 13 amps and it's 250 volt per socket, so I think that's around about 3 kilowatts, so don't quote me on that, but yeah, don't go over 13 amps. They're saying it's intended for office equipment, but I mean, you could use it for anything really, as long as you don't go too crazy, like use it for a washing machine or something, you know. And they usually have a power LED. I wish it was smaller. And they usually have surge protection as well. So really, you can't, it's pretty hard to go wrong. I like to put a date on this, so I take that the 16th of May 22, so that's when it was made probably. This one's got 2 USB sockets on top, type A, so that's pretty good. It says 5 volt 2.4 amp max, but as usual I don't know if that means per socket or if that's a total, because if it's a total it means 5 volts 1.2 amp, which is just over 5 watts. But really, if you can get 5 volts and 2.4 amps in one socket, that would mean just over 10 watts you would get. So you've got a phone that charges at 10 watts, that's what you get, because the default for USB type A sockets is 5 volts 1 amp, which is 1 watt. Power in watts equals volts times amps. But if it was 2.4 amps per socket or in total, and for one socket, that means if you had a 10 watt phone, you could charge it up at 10 watts. But if you plugged 2 in, they would both charge it 5 watts each. You know what I mean? But anyway, I'm not a fan of inbuilt USB sockets because although they're handy, they're limited by whatever their power rating is. Because these ones, one of them's 20 watts, I think that might be 10 watts, you know. So I'm guaranteed to be getting that. Whereas if you're, I mean, tortoise speed is 5 volts 1 amp equals 5 watts. So that's what the default is at the moment, you know. So if you're putting a phone in and it's only 5 volts 1 amp, which equals 5 watts, that's all the speed it'll go. It doesn't matter if your phone's 50 watt or 10 watt. So I don't really like inbuilt ones because they're sort of, you're stuck with them. But they're handy, you know, that's handy for charging stuff anyway. I just leave any quality chargers I've got in, you know, one of them's 20 watts, 10 watts, 10 watts, you know. They're all better than 5 watts, so yeah, that's what I do. I don't really use that. I do sometimes, but could do without the blue light because it makes your room light up, you know, when it's dark. Why are you still using these? Why? Why? That was me done that, obviously, in an attempt to enhance it. Again, it says 5 volts, 2.1 milliamp, which is 2.1 amp. I don't know why they still put them in milliamps, you know, because we're up at 2100, so you'd think they would just call it 2.1 amp. So that's meant to be like just over 10 watts. But are they talking about spread across all four, or are they talking about, they're all 5 volt, but it's the amp, you don't know if they're spreading the amp, or, so you might plug one thing in, it's very unlikely though that it would be 500 amp, 500 milliamps or 0.5 amps, because nowadays 1 amp's usually the default lowest you can get. So probably if I plug one thing in, I'll be getting 5 volts, 2.1 amp, which is just over 10 watts. But then if I plug 2 things in, it would be, there's a good chance it would be 5 watts each. And then what would happen if you plug 3 in? I don't know. But you get the idea. They need to start naming these for each input, not just give a total. All of them have a cable about 2 meters long. These other two are probably from eBay. I think that was about £11–12. That's an 8 plug one. I think that was about £14 or something. So you're talking between £10 and £20, probably around about £15 typically on eBay. I got this one for the kitchen so that it would fit under the cabinet. You know, the other ones are just a bit too big. This one doesn't say surge or anything, but I think it is. It's about 3 kilowatts max, though, I would say. I think they all typically are. So you're not meant to be using high power things, you know, like a Hoover could be 1 kilowatt. I think the EU maxed that out at 1 kilowatt. They used to be about 1.5 kilowatts or whatever. Washing machine, you know, you'd be very silly to plug in a washing machine. Probably the most realistic high thing that you might do is a 2-bar heater. I don't know if people still use them, but that could be 2 kilowatts, you know, so that's a lot. So I wouldn't advise that. It's meant for low to medium stuff, you know, like a TV maybe 100 watts, a light 20 watts, a PC 80 watts, a PlayStation, I don't know, 80 watts, something like that, you know. So if you're using all these, and your phone and all that, you know, if you're using all these things, you should be nowhere near 3 kilowatts or whatever, you know. This one was bought in 23, about £11–12 I think. I think they're going up a bit, but I use this one in the kitchen under a kitchen cabinet. And in a way I'm breaking my rule because I think I use it for the microwave and pressure cooker and air fryer, but not all at the same time. Actually, I'm not sure I do. I think in a microwave I just plug straight into a socket. There again it says, do not exceed 13 amps, which if you're at 250 volts per... No, I don't know what I'm talking about actually. Because really they trip on amps, that's what they trip on. And so this would probably trip anyway, but also your house. Most houses nowadays have got switches that would trip. Modern houses anyway, talking the last 30 years or whatever, but the old type might have an old fuse type that would blow, but that would be the fuse that would blow, not your house. They're really light as well, they feel lighter than the ordinary extension lead types. So, yeah, I think you should make the change. Throw it, why are you keeping all your old stuff? Make the change. Tower, power. Plus it's more organised as well, you know, because they're all sort of coming down like that. You could even put a cable tie here or something if you wanted, you know. And of course you've got double. You've got 8 rather than 4, you know. This brand is Duronic. I take it for a surge it just trips. It doesn't, you know, a fuse doesn't blow or something. I take it you plug it back in again, it should work. This is the Tesco one. 2 USBs on top. I think this is an older one, possibly from eBay. When I say old, I don't know, 3 or 4 years or something. I'm not sure I can remove this one. I probably can actually, but I'm not going to try. I see that's broke, I didn't notice. because the cable's gone on the inside. 10 sockets. It's all good, guys. Come away from the 1970s, alright, without the USB, pretend they're not there. 1970s. Come on into the new world with tower ones. You get double thumbnail time. I'm just looking at the prices on Amazon. I think that one's £10 at the moment, so that's better than what I got. I see another one on Amazon, it's a 10 socket and it's £9.27. I don't know if that includes delivery. But at current prices, July 23, you're talking £10 to £20. Alright, here they are plugged in. It doesn't look too bad in the daylight, but at night, you know, it can, light pollution in my opinion. I could do with these being tiny, you know. Okay. It's a plug that's wrong, not the thing. That charger's a bit tricky, but it's the charger's fault.